Uh, this leaves us with the next speaker. Again, a very young, vibrant intern, but very knowledgeable. And she's Miss Simran Massey. She has completed her BA in Economic Honors and Masters in Public Policy. And she's of the opinion that reality is what people make of it. I believe so too. And she's going to speak on the topic, like Mr. Ashish shared, a wonderful topic on suicide, a silent epidemic. It does feel like an epidemic, as I guess we are reading about every experience, every second day in newspaper, and it's just becoming more and more. Maybe it's coming into limelight more often now than before, but for many reasons that Ms. Simran is going to share with us, we're going to listen to her perspective on the same topic. She has won, she's been a first prize in Indian Liberal Essay Contest 2019 for writing an essay on encoding privacy in digital world. And we are very honored to have her. And she's been interning as a research, as a policy research for the Center, with the Center for Civil Society to conduct primary research on the theme informal economy and decent work. So thank you for having her. Yeah, a round of applause while we welcome her.
Good morning, everyone. As thank you so much for having me here. Also, I sort of zoned out while Mr. Ashish was talking because it made me really, when you were talking about the sixth grade student, I was, in the shoes of a student when I was in 10th grade, and I've witnessed some of the things that you just said. But I feel that, I, I think I'll use this. Yeah. So I feel that I've grown a lot from the experiences that I had when I was a 10th grader and now being a master's student. Um, so, so, as we all know, we enter this rat race where we want to, we actually take Charles Darwin's theory, survival of the fittest, to our heart, and we want to be the best, and we want to exceed in everything, excel in everything, and being I was in one of those competitive leagues, you should be, you are studious, even though sometimes you feel like lazing around. But no, the teachers should think that you attend classes and everything. I ended up in the hospital after that. I mean, in the 10th grade, right before my board exams, and all the all the hard work that I had done till till the ninth grade of my school life, I felt, what all did I achieve? I mean, what if I don't get marks in the 10th grade? My 12th will be, like down the drain, and then I won't get a good college. And people, as they said, there's a huge gap between expectations and reality. People expect more from you. Even if your parents are supportive, you'll think, the society would want, oh, your kid didn't do well. So I had my whole share of visiting psychotherapists, psychologists, and everybody. There's women's in Delhi. I'm from Delhi, so my parents took me there. They were very worried. I was hospitalized for 6 months, and I felt that, even though I was a happy-go-lucky kid, depression can set in due to various reasons. It necessarily doesn't have to be due to, the societal peer pressure. It could be because you were sick for a long time, or you were facing some personal problem that, you couldn't share with anybody. And there's a school friend of mine here. So she had no idea. She has been my friend since second grade. But she had no idea I was going through all this in the 10th grade. I told her after 5 years. I mean, I'm 22 right now, and then I told her now, and she was like, why didn't you tell me then? I would have, visited you in the hospital or done something. As like, Mr. Ashish said that I understand, but people don't. And while sitting in the hospital, I realized that, you know, you feel like other people will get your pain, but then you don't feel like sharing because you feel since they are not going through it, they would just like say words which have no meaning. And words can be powerful. So, but then yes, so and also sorry to all the psychologists sitting here, but when I was a 10th grader, I even went to the psychologist and she asked me if I heard voices in the night. And I was like, are you mad? And then she just looked at me and she's like, wow, you're a student and you're, I was like, how are you even a psychologist? Why are you asking me stuff like if I hear voices in the night or everything? But then that was just a way to assess, like, and I never took mental health seriously because I was like, I had a vitamin D deficiency or like some migraine. It was a neurological issue. So I was like, why is she even delving deeper into mental health and suicidal thoughts? Okay, I feel like going to the terrace of my house at night. But why is she thinking that I'm missing out on studies. Why can't she think it's a serious problem, like a reality? But she's calling me mental or like, psycho and like all these words that we used to hear in school. When we used to have, it was a girls' school, so when we used to have a fight, we used to call each other psychos and, words which like now I feel they have deeper meaning. And I was diagnosed with OCD. And now I feel people just like, use, so there was this job application on LinkedIn where a person said that you should have OCD in your writing manner. And I felt that, your OCD is a serious mental health issue. People have obsessive compulsive disorder, they're struggling with it. There are, ways of helping them cope with it. So you can't really use OCD in a layman terms that, oh, you have OCD with relation to writing or anything else. And since we now live in the digital age of social media, so in the further slides, I've tried to touch upon how technology could be our friend and could be our foe in perpetuating suicides or even help the policymakers in preventing them. The reason why I came back to this topic, so that was an old story. Then I graduated 10th. I didn't flunk a year, but yeah, I graduated 12th. I got Stephens. I did economics. During my orientation, so one thing, our principal, once we joined college as young budding economist, there was one quote which stayed with me throughout. He quoted Oscar Wilde by saying that, as humans, we know the price of everything, but we know the value of nothing. So I feel that, in this age, we do not value our life enough to care about the people around us or the issues that affect us. And sometimes we are not even lucky to have people who are as understanding as they say they are, or parents who are supportive, or the community at large. This one person, this is an actual news article of July 14, 2018. This is when I joined Xavier's for Masters in Public Policy. We woke up one day and we read this news article, and it was all over the newspapers, all over social media, where it said that a 20-year-old master's student commits suicide by hanging himself in Chambord. And we all got frightened because they didn't name the person. I mean, that would have been, the newspaper articles do not name them initially, and we thought, who? And we had just joined masters. It had been 2 weeks. And it could be the person I was sitting right next to, or it could be a person I started liking or started talking to, or, I mean, who would do this? I mean, they just joined masters and in a prestigious college in Mumbai. So it was, he was later identified as Shivam Tripathi. I had spoken to him twice or thrice, and I just felt that maybe he was not as lucky as sometimes, like like right now, everybody has come here to talk about such issues, and I'm like sure you talk about it to your family or friends. He wasn't that lucky, and he was from Delhi. His name was Shivam Tripathi. He was an alumnus of TIS Guwahati, and he came to Mumbai to pursue masters on his own. Like there was no pressure from his parents or anything. One fine day, his roommate just found him hanging. And his roommate also like verified the facts that, he seemed happy and that he had no problems. And even in college, he was a like fine chap, like there were no problems. And there were no signs and the police didn't find any suicide notes. Um, this made us ponder upon the fact that, even when people are suffering, they don't want to talk about it because they feel that people are going to judge them and there's nothing that others can do anyway. But I would like to debunk that myth because I even, so before coming for this conference, since we were notified a month prior, in my college, I tried to conduct a perceptive survey. It was good that it was anonymous, so people felt like they could open up, they could talk, because they knew that, their name wouldn't pop up and nobody would know that who wrote what. So I got 105 responses, which was a good thing because people do care about this issue. I'll share the results in a bit. But we feel that, while doing health policy, mental health is somehow like just taken out of the domain. Like you talk about physical health, you talk about public health crisis, you talk about sanitation, every sort of problem, but mental health is somehow ignored. And when you even look at farmer suicides and everything, you feel like, giving them money would, like giving them a loan waiver, like that's a very, like every politician's, this thing is giving them a loan waiver, but that won't solve the problem. Like rural India actually witnesses, like I saw data, they witness a far more tremendous like increase in suicide rates than urban India. Um, so it takes us to the question that what drives one to suicide, because as the doctor points out, a suicide attempt is often a cry, like a cry for help. But how often is this help provided? And even in the survey, a lot of people visited primary doctors, but they never visited psychotherapists or psychologists because of the stigma attached. As I said, like even I didn't consider them to be real doctors, so to speak. Also, depression is still misunderstood by many as mood swings. As he almost used all the points, but drama queen, I was gonna say that. They say that, oh, you're having mood swings. Are you PMSing, or are you having a bad day, or did you just break up, or like they cite it to different reasons, but they don't really look at depression as like clinical depression, like actually a problem, a biological. So my mother is MSc chemistry honor, so she likes talking about chemicals and everything, and chemical reactions in our body. I chose economics and policy, but she told me that it's scientific, and so yeah, and it's often looked as attention seeking. That, oh, you're just an attention seeker. I mean, why would someone seek attention for a grave issue like suicide? I mean, if they're, as, as he pointed out, if you're talking about it, which means that you want to speak up. You want to, why would you like gain attention for something so grave, an issue such as suicide? So I really like this picture. I was watching a movie where, so it was about the Wall Street crisis of 2008 and how many people committed suicide after the financial crisis. Those were one of the major reasons. So this movie had this cliff where, so people actually have started finding suicide as appealing, like as he said, Robin Williams. And celebrities, like it's called suicide contagion. Like you want to, like it becomes a like a spiraling effect, like where you look at your celebrities doing that. And a lot of, I remember Amy Winehouse overdosing, and then people looking up to her, oh wow, Amy, like they still love her, but then they felt bad for her, but then they didn't really look at the underlying reasons. And so it is at once appalling and yet in the darkest places of our mind. And trust me, everybody has this dark, at 3 a.m. thoughts, where you have this thoughts where you have dark thoughts. It seems appealing. And it is the most damaging sort of death. A child's suicide is a parent's worst nightmare, and a parent's marks their children for life. And I remember I used to have such dark thoughts, thinking my parents are so supportive. What if one of them, something happens to them? What would I do? I'll kill myself that day itself. I mean, you think, how can you live without? So, I mean, if a person, like if he is thinking also of committing suicide, you don't think that he would have thought what would happen to the family behind him, family that he leaves behind? They do. But then, like, it's a call for despair, like it's a, um, then I go a bit to Charles Darwin again. So, like, have humans developed natural defenses against suicide? So apparently, so this quote says that, according to if anyone of you have read his book, The Origin of Species, he says that, natural selection will never produce in a being anything injurious to itself. But we are living in current times, and in humans, natural selection apparently did exactly that. Because suicide is the leading cause of violent death. And when I was looking at the statistics, alarming, because more than all wars and murders combined, according to the World Health Organization, suicide is the leading cause. So are we, like, debunking Charles Darwin's theory? Okay, so this person, so I really like the works of psychotherapists and psychologists now. So Clifford Soper had done his PhD, and he concluded, like, his conclusion was that the ravages of suicides are a consequence of human intelligence and have shaped our minds and cultures. And I really like his model. So he calls his model as pain and brain. So when faced with agonizing pain, and I mean agonizing pain, like it could be due to any reason, even a sophisticated mind can think of death as an escape. So it's not like, people say, oh, they have low literacy levels, so they are committing suicide because they are not educated enough. A most sophisticated mind could also do that in ways we couldn't imagine. He also notes that, so this was a bit controversial, because he notes that mental illness can itself be a safeguard against suicide. Because he says that, it's the last resort, like mental illness, if that is caught, then, you could prevent suicides. But I feel that mental illness, separate from suicide prevention, we should look at it, because, once you, like, treat them for whatever mental illness they might have, which I asked in my survey as well. A lot of people thought they had anxiety issues and not depression. Some people thought they had social anxiety, but not anxiety per se. So treating different mental health illnesses could lead to effective suicide prevention. Okay, it's coming a bit, but this is our first step towards a mental health revolution. Like, in the 60s and 70s, there was a sanitation revolution because people were dying of epidemics and cholera. I mean, I think right now we need a mental health revolution, because people are dying because of suicides, and the stats are quite alarming. Also in 2017, like, a lot of people aren't aware of the mental health care bill that, suicide, there was actually decriminalization of suicide so that people would talk about it, and like it wouldn't feel as if you have committed a crime or you have done something illegal. So these are some of the survey results that I had. So given the widespread stigma around suicide, most people who are contemplating suicide do not know who to speak to. They know it's an issue. They know they are doing, like, they need help. But they're acknowledging the fact that they need help, but they don't know who to talk about it and how to get out of it. Rather than, like, okay. So basically, we need to talk to people more. So this survey was anonymous. A lot of people, I actually got some results which were, yeah. So when I asked people that, as far as you know, which of the following increases a person's risk of suicide, almost 85% people regarded depression as the major factor in increasing suicide risk among individuals. Then I gave them different options. So there was, like, there was a difference between social anxiety disorder and anxiety, and bipolar, obsessive compulsive disorder, different problems like, being bullied, feeling hopeless. A lot of people press feeling hopeless. It could be due to anything. But this was the general perception. I even asked, like, what do you think are some of the barriers that prevent people who are thinking about suicide from seeking help? Because, so most of them, like 80%, almost like 76% thought that, feeling like nothing will help was the major barrier. Because you always feel that, nothing will happen, so why should I even bother? And then not knowing how to get help, coming to the how part. And then lack of hope and social stigma were also quite prominent. Um, the, a lot of people even take 60% take fear of disappointing others. Like you're already disappointed with your life, but you feel like you'll be disappointing others further when you talk about what you're going through. So this made me ponder upon why mental illness still remains shrouded in stigma. A lot of people, I asked them which of the following healthcare providers did they see in the past 12 months. So they did say that, they have been like 10% did see a psychologist and around 5% people saw a psychiatrist. But they are looking at primary care physicians who can't really help. I mean, these are specific problems. As we consider fracture a real problem, mental health is a serious cause of concern. They were missing work. So, you see the trade-off here. They are willing to miss their days of work, but they are not willing to go to the doctor to... And I asked them specifically, in the past 6 months, how many days work have you missed because you were too anxious or too depressed to go to work? So they know that they're missing work because of depression. They know depression is the most, like 85% feel depression is the major issue. But they're still not willing to go to a doctor to do something about it, or maybe talk to people about it. So this was a question which people wouldn't answer in the room loudly. Have you ever thought that you have any of the following health conditions? I pressed mine in OCD, but there were people, so 57.1%, around 60% had anxiety. Like, it is so becoming so common now that anxiety was more than depression. There was like panic disorder also. Obsessive compulsive disorder also was quite high, it was around 30%. But again, the conundrum is still there. Were you diagnosed properly for the conditions mentioned previously? 68, around 70% people said no. Like they thought they had a problem, but then again they didn't seek help or they weren't diagnosed properly. And there were some people who said that, around 14.3% said that maybe. Like now maybe could be that they went to a doctor but they weren't satisfied, or maybe could be they spoke to someone but they felt that, it would just pass away or it would just go away. Okay, so this was interesting. Which of the following describes your opinion of suicide? So 41% thought it was a way to escape pain. Then a lot of people thought it was a selfish act. 16% thought it was a selfish act. Impulsive act, 33% thought it was impulsive. The rest of them thought that, it was only 1% thought cry for help, but a lot of, so 13% also thought it was a person's right. That it was a person's right to commit suicide. And then, I don't know who wrote never, but do you think suicide can be prevented? And I would love for you to, ask this question to yourself as well. Like, do you actually think deep down that suicide can be prevented, or we're just having conferences to, like, talk about it, but we feel that, seriously nothing can be done? I mean, there was a person, like, there's a little purple there that's never. Someone did write never. I mean, and this is my community. I mean, my college people, work people, family, friends. So, I mean, there are people around us who think that suicide can never be prevented. Sometimes was like, this was a bit of a, like a trilemma or something. I mean, 40% did think that usually, sometimes, like, but, okay, this was interesting because it comes to the policy part, like friends. We all have friends, people sitting next to us can be friends. If you ever have thoughts of suicide, who would you tell? So they won't even go to their spouse or their partner, like most of them, like, but 58, around 60% would go to a friend, for sure. But, and around, so 10% was still left by saying no one. So there were people in the sample who said, even if we had thoughts, we would go to no one. I mean, and I think the whole point of this conference and talking about this issue is to make that 10% to zero. Like, you need to talk to someone. And I gave a lot of options, like, even a hotline. I mean, you don't have to go to a person. You can just call a crisis hotline. And there was 8% people who said that, oh, we'll call a hotline, but we don't want to trouble our friends or family. No one, not sure was a lot of people. Some people, 1% would never even think of it. So what might stop you? Okay, this is quite interesting. I mean, um, so if someone close to you told you that, listen, hey, I'm suicidal, I don't know what to do, but I'm telling you, because, they say talk about it, talk to a friend. But as you, like as a person who's not suicidal, what would you do? And there were some shocking answers. It's anonymous, so I don't know who wrote and why they, because I would really want to talk to people, I mean, if someone is coming to you and you say that people should talk to their friends, so you should have the answers, right? Maybe you should have a bit of a how to prevent or help them prevent. So there were people, approximately, so 37% people felt that, they would make the other person worse off. Like, if like someone came to me, I would do something which inadvertently would make them worse off. I wouldn't know what to do. So 31% also felt that they don't know what to say or do. I think we should change that, because there is this, so there's movements globally where there's this thing called gatekeeper, where, community people, like normal citizens, you, me, everybody, they give certain training where we can cope up with such things, because it could be your mother, your father, your friend feeling suicidal, so you should know what to do in order to help them. 21% thought that there may be nothing that they can do to help. I mean, you can call a hotline, I mean, crisis line or the police, but they said nothing. They feel they can't do anything. 24% people were afraid that talking about it would make their friends attempt suicide. They thought that, if we talked about it, maybe we romanticize it, so they might even just go ahead and do it. And then they would be to be blamed. Lastly, there was a certain proportion of people, around 7%, who would not want to get involved. I mean, you should stay away from such friends. I mean, they wouldn't want to get involved at all. So this takes me to social media and how there needs to be safe communication in the digital age. Because as it was mentioned before, I did write an essay on privacy as well. Because there are serious concerns. Because see, I got so many responses because it was anonymous and it was confidential, and people felt that their answers were safe with me. So 13 reasons why, I mean, if most of you must have heard about it or watched it, there were a lot of debates surrounding it, So there were reports by the United States, like think tanks and everything, because there was a furore created by this Netflix series in 2017. And people felt that, it actually perpetuated suicides amongst the youth. Because they felt that, oh, there were 13 episodes where Hannah Baker, like it's a graphic version of how to commit suicide, why, and it actually, they got overawed by it. But I feel it could be regularized. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. We could use it in our favor, because even so, online, we are living in, I mean, let's not say that, social media technology should be kept away from such issues, because I feel we are ushering into the fifth industrial revolution, where there will be, chatbots, because these days some people wouldn't want to talk to a person, but they would be willing to talk to a anonymous online chatbot where they would get help for suicide prevention. So even the survey that I administered, people were happily answering, and quite real answers. So also, so this shows that, but some of them were actually motivated. Like when they watched this, I remember my professor also talking about it in class. She was like, it's a good thing that they took out this series, because they are creating awareness about bullying and depression amongst the youth, which people should know it's a serious problem, and then they should talk about it. And they talk about it to their parents. And my professor used to discuss it with her young daughter. Like, did you watch 13 Reasons Why? So it sparked a conversation between the parents and their teens. Okay. So, I mean, suicide and technology, are their partners in crime? So, for instance, so this is the project that I was talking about in 2000, recently in 2018, in Canada, with the Public Health Agency, there's a pilot project they are running, which will use social media posts. So beware of what you post on social media with the captions and everything. But it does as a resource to predict regional suicide rates. I mean, it would help in, because as we all know, prevention is better than cure, or even going till the stage where the person is already suffering so much. It's easier to predict them at a very early stage. So it would help in, this is one of my favorite part, because so nudge theory has been used in everything, and Niti Aayog also came up with they are planning to come up with a nudge unit, and they are working on papers on that. So this picture that you see, there's a person sitting there and there's something written, right? So I'll tell you what's written. So the message is projected with a projector, and it translates to, it's in Serbia, it translates to, you are not alone, with the suicide prevention helpline phone number underneath it. So this is the Belgrade Bridge. So there's a story behind that, because it's very infamous, because it's named after a poet who committed suicide by jumping off it. So that's why it's called Belgrade Bridge. And it's like a symbol of suicide in Serbia. A lot of Serbians go there to commit suicide. And nothing could prevent them. The police used to come, but people still used to jump off the bridge. I mean, it was like they knew that if they wanted to die, they would like die in a grand manner, because it's the Belgrade Bridge. But nudge theory actually helped prevent suicides on this bridge, because this projector, like when they used to sit there, and it was placed in such a location so cleverly that it could be only seen from the top of the bridge. So as you look down, so making it somehow like more powerful, like because when you look down, you're planning to jump. So this was one of the nudges that the government used to, so it takes me back to behavioral change communication, which comes in from each and every one of us. So it's an effective tool if other policies don't work. So nudge theory could be like little nudges, like knowing what to do and how to deal with your friends, your close friends coming up to you and telling you that, oh, I'm suicidal. So small nudges maybe you could give them, and like knowing how to deal with it. So it's actually the goal of nudge theory is to show how choice architecture. So it's helping people make better health choices, mental health choices, and as judged by themselves. So it's called libertarian paternalism, where, and like now even the states the states were seen as this paternalistic character, where the states actually they criminalized suicide, which actually led to more, because people went underground and people, so you need libertarian paternalism even from the policies from the state, which they are taking a step towards the right direction by first of all decriminalizing suicide, because if you make it more open, if it's more, there's more dialogue, people would open up more. So this book, so Richard Thaler won the Nobel Prize for this book, Nudge. So I feel like, even in mental health, like what the Serbians did, I feel that nudge theory could be really used along with other strategies. Like whatever we try to implement, we can, try to improve access to mental and behavioral health services, reduce stigma. I mean, nudge really helps in reducing stigma. Increase connectedness with peer norm programs, like I said, like the Gatekeeper program, where like friends come together and you're trained by a professional, by a mental health professional, where you can help people better. Because those people who were suicidal in the survey that you saw, they wouldn't open up to anyone else. They would open up to their friends. And then it's up to you what are you going to do with that information. Work with communities to reduce the risk of suicide. I was reading this book by Raghuram Rajan, where the third pillar. So he says, states and markets often fail, but then people tend to ignore the most important pillar, which is community. So I think community is what, people make the community. So again, it would be, working with communities would seriously help reduce the risk of this thing. Also, the idea of a community-based campaign would not only get people to not think about suicides but it will also raise awareness. Like they would try because they know that it's okay to talk about it within the broader framework. And I really like this quote when I was going through it, that just when the caterpillar thought the world was over, it became a butterfly. And the moment you're ready to quit is usually the moment right before a miracle happens. So don't give up. So your friends might be waiting for miracles to happen, but they don't know how. And I feel that suicides could be prevented. Like I'm amongst those always bracket, but it would really require change from all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Simran. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Simran for her presentation? Yeah. All right. We can always have this session at the end as well. She's going to hopefully stay with the whole. Thank you so much. It was really insightful. Very well. The research is done so well and with so much of information shared today with us, especially about the nudge therapy, and it was truly a great learning.